Next up, we have Tesoro Resources. The Managing Director, Zeff Reeves, is joining me from Perth. Borders might be closed, but we can still chat on Zoom. Guys, this is a big gold project in Chile in South America. Zeff, great to see you. Thanks for the chat.
Yeah, thanks, Kerry, and thanks for hosting the event and allowing us to catch up and introduce Tesoro to your audience.
Well, I think it's a really, really interesting project that you've got. And by the way, I forgot to say the ASX code, ladies and gentlemen, is TSO. TSO, we'll write that down. So before we get stuck into, I guess, the detail, Zeff, you're the Managing Director. Give us a brief overview of the project and its location.
Yeah, so Tesoro is a single project company with a project in the coastal belt of Chile. It's called the Zorro Gold Project. It's located just outside of a port city or port town called Caldera. So it's about 800 kilometres north of Santiago. Sits right on the coast. Superb location to build a gold mine. And we've got an intrusive related gold system that we've been able to delineate there fairly rapidly. And we've just delivered our first resource. And we're still busily drilling away with, hopefully have a significant expansion to that resource coming up in the not too distant future. So it's been a very productive 18 months since listing the company back in 2020. And we've had the foot flat to the floor, and I think that's going to continue.
Well, you've certainly done a lot of drilling and a lot of work. And as you say, you only listed in 2020. So lots going on with you guys. Has COVID had any sort of impact, or have you got the right people on the ground and Chile's pretty good with mining, etc.? Have there been any challenges?
Yeah, look, there's always challenges in an environment like this. I think, even our peers here in Australia have faced challenges with border closures and so on. But we've got a fantastic team in Chile, and we've just had to, make sure that we've got the right procedures and protocols and so on to keep all of our staff safe and healthy. But to everyone's credit in Chile, we haven't missed a beat. So, we've put nearly 70,000 metres of drilling now into El Zorro since listing. So really, we haven't had a material effect. COVID hasn't had a material effect on our actual work on the ground, which has been a real credit to the team in country.
Okay, and as you said earlier, you've only been listed for 18. You've done a lot of work in 18 months. You've recently come out with your maiden mineral resource. Explain that a little bit, because some people here, they've got the money, they're keen, but they're not quite sure what certain things mean. So coming out with a maiden mineral resource, what was it? What's it looking like? And what are the next steps?
Yeah, so the maiden resource was 660,000 ounces, just under a gram per tonne, but it's an outcropping gold ore body. But probably more importantly, there's a number of high-grade zones within that ore body. So it's just under 1.1 for just over 500,000 ounces. And really the impetus for the resource initially is to start to fast track some of our permitting processes in Chile. We need to provide some numbers to the government, which get published publicly. So we really want to get our skates on there, because it is a long process to get a project permitted in Chile. So we're starting all that work quite early and running a number of processes in parallel to try and fast track El Zorro through to a production scenario. So, we think we've got ourselves a gold mine on our hands. We see significant expansion in that resource, and we would hope to try and double that over the sort of next 6 months or so. Got a significant amount of drilling that has been achieved that wasn't included in that resource. I think there's about 70 odd holes now that weren't included in it. We're starting to see some very positive results from that drilling, which will add more ounces to that inventory. And I suppose the other really significant thing about what we've seen at El Zorro is our initial metallurgical test work, which had exceptionally high recoveries, a lot of gold reporting to the gravity circuit in that met work. So when you put that together with the location of El Zorro, which is, as I said, right on the coast, very easy to operate, supported by infrastructure, high met recoveries, ore body sticking out of the ground, and you're sitting in Chile, which has got probably arguably the best equipped open pit mining expertise in the world. They are the
Oh,
world's
really?
biggest copper miner, and they are operating copper mines over there, which are substantially larger than the iron ore industry is operating here in Western Australia, and they really know how to open pit mining. So it's a very well equipped and well skilled workforce, contractors and so on. So when we throw all that together, you start to see a fairly good opportunity for a very low cost production scenario going forward for our Zorro, and really we're just focused on achieving a resource size that's able to support a decision to mine ultimately.
Yeah, and I guess that was right, because you are getting your skates on and you said this will be a mine. What are the steps to go through to get to that decision to mine? How difficult, because you mentioned that Chile, you've got to start working a little bit early to get all the permitting in order. Do you see that as fairly straightforward?
Yeah, look, it's a very prescriptive process in Chile, but it is straightforward, and it's been set in stone for a long time. So it's a very stable and clear operating environment. But it does take time to go through those stages, with baseline environmental studies and so on. So we're kicking off a lot of that work now, and we expect that some of the work that we're doing, so we've bolstered our, I suppose, internal capabilities with personnel here at Tesoro, with engineering capability and so on, to be able to start working on a scoping study, which we would hope we'd be able to deliver well before the end of the year as well, with an expanded resource. So really the steps to get this through to production will be resource expansion, absolutely. We can see significant expansion of what we've already got our hands on. Delivery of that scoping study, which will start to demonstrate some economic parameters around what we think it might look like, and also optimise, I guess, the development pathway for the project. And we'd like to be able to step into a feasibility study fairly rapidly early next year. So, and then off the back of that, a decision to mine, I guess. And then in parallel with all of that, we're commencing our permitting process, environmental studies and the like, to ensure that we don't lose any time once that decision to mine's been made. I think sometimes the mistakes made to not kick off that permitting process and the environmental approvals and so on until a feasibility study's being delivered. And I think once you've got momentum for project development and you can see a clear pathway ahead, it's important to kick that off quite early so as not to lose any time.
It'd be good to just get a visual, I guess, of because quite often when you come to a decision to mine, some of the issues are infrastructure, water, power, roads, etc., because that does impact on, I guess, the capital costs, the capex of getting a mine put together. It'd be good to see the sort of location and what's in and around and what needs to be done to get this into mine.
Yeah, sure. Look, I'll just throw up a location map of where the project is, and it'll give you a good idea of, I guess, the advantages that we have with the location of our Zorro. I mean, we start to look at it from an infrastructure perspective, and I mean, it's, if you want to build a gold mine or any sort of mine, this is probably a pretty good place to put one. So
Yeah.
This is a map of our concession holdings. They're in red, and the Tenera deposit is this yellow diamond in the middle of those concession holdings. So the project itself is 13 kilometres as the crow flies from the coast, and 13 kilometres from the Pan American Highway, which runs the entire length of the American continent. Basically, it goes from the very south of Chile all the way to Alaska, actually.
Wow.
So, but that's where we sit right on the highway. There's power lines, that HV power lines, which have got capacity. We've actually spoken to that infrastructure owner, and they've got capacity on that line, more than enough actually to run a gold mine. Desalination plant's only 30 kilometres away, but I think importantly, and this is some of the met work that we're doing now, is we're looking at accessing the ocean for processing water, to pump it up to the project. So build a pipeline about 13 kilometres long. You can see those concessions there that we've already pegged along our proposed infrastructure corridor.
Okay.
So we, we're thinking well ahead of than a mere exploration project here. We really do see a mine emerging. And we've got the Caldera port is only 57 kilometres away. So that's where all of our staff currently stay when they're on site, and they just simply drive up to the project each day. It's about a 50-minute drive from Caldera straight up the Pan American Highway and then inland on a well-maintained dirt road. So very easy to get to. The Atacama Airport, 76 kilometres away. That's an hour's flight north of Santiago. So if people want to do site visits, it's very straightforward. They can be up to site and back in a day very easily. And probably important as well is Copiapo in the south here. So that's like probably a very big Kalgoorlie, if you like. So it's really a mining-based city. So all the assay laboratories are there, drilling contractors, mining contractors, machinery providers, all the majors who are operating in the region have all got offices there, such as Barrick, Kinross, Goldfields, and so on. And obviously that comes with a very well-skilled workforce. So, you're not dealing with altitude. You don't have to put new roads in. You can work there all year round, and it, sitting right on the coast. So it really is an exceptional location for a gold deposit to be that is allows us to leverage off all that infrastructure, and really reduce potential capex on it. So, the good thing is that our engineering team here are looking at all the different options to, I guess, plug into that scoping study and see what the best options to develop this project are. And, one of the discussions I've had recently with one of those guys has been, this project's great because you've got all those options. You're not pushed down a single pathway. And at the moment, they're looking at it from a low-cost open pit mining perspective. And, going back to that map again, it really makes a massive difference if you've got that on your side and an ore body sticking out of the ground with all this supporting infrastructure. So the other thing I probably should point out on this slide is you can see our ground holdings there. It's about 55, 60 kilometres of strike along what we think is a prospective zone of potential to host additional intrusive related gold deposits along that area. But there's been a bit of a land grab recently, particularly to the west of us by some of the mid-tiers. Yamana Gold have pegged a big swathe of land directly to the west of us.
Oh, wow.
And there's starting to be quite a lot of interest off the back of the work and the discovery of the deposit at Tenera. So I think they're all starting to have a look now, and their eyes have been open to the fact that these style of deposit can occur in Chile. This is the first one that we know of, and it's really ramped up the level of activity throughout the region.
Well, I think it's fantastic because you've got the first mover advantage, but also you pointed out before that tiny little orange diamond in the middle, that's the Tenera deposit, but there are going to be new zones outside of that existing resource. And is that how you're going to grow? Because you've got a large land holding there. Is your focus just on Tenera at the moment, or are you looking, because just wanted to sort of see, there's a lot going on. You want to get into production with that one. What are the next steps? What's the news flow going forward?
Yeah, well, there's obviously a lot of exploration upside in this project. I mean, we've identified multiple targets out of Tenera. So at the moment, with those 6 rigs on site, I suppose it's a two-pronged approach. When we did that resource estimation, there's a lot of material that sits out of the reported resource that we weren't able to classify according to the JORC guidelines. So that really gives us a lot of areas to go and infill and add additional ounces to. So we have some dedicated drilling rigs doing that work and adding to the Tenera resource. But in the recent ASX announcement, some of the information that we've released and some of the drill results that we've released have been from Tenera East. And that's obviously directly east of Tenera, but it sits in the hanging wall of Tenera. And I guess that's really highlighted the fact that our exploration team has really nailed the exploration model here. So if we have the host rocks with the right structures in them, they're nearly always mineralised. And we're seeing mineralisation at Tenera East from surface at all grade, at significant widths that we picked up in our surface sampling. We've now drilled 2 holes that are about 250 metres apart. Both of them had significant intercepts, the sort of material that you'd probably dig out of the ground. So we've got 2 rigs there at the moment to delineate exactly what we've got our hands on there. So we can see a resource getting fairly rapidly delineated at Tenera East. We've also picked up the same intrusive rocks to the west at Drone Hill. So we've got a bunch of drilling planned for there. And the thing that the geos are really excited about is to the north up to Torre Blanco. So the host rocks have been mapped all the way up there, and there's some quite large bodies of the intrusives. We see the right structures. There's some anomalous gold up there. And I was actually discussing with our senior geo on site who runs all of our programs there. And he's telling me that he thinks that Tenera is probably not the middle of this system and might be on the edge. So
wow.
That's with the exploration geo's optimistic hat on. So we're pretty keen to let him loose with his team up there and go and punch a few holes into Torre Blanco. So we'll try to get to that in the next month or 2 as well. So multiple targets outside of Tenera. We can see, certainly, we're very optimistic that there's going to be resources coming out of Tenera East as a minimum. But, going back to that intrusive related gold system model, such as that Tintina in North America is an analogue to the types of things that we're looking at our Zorro. The deposits tend to cluster. So where you have one, you tend to have multiple deposits and maybe one or 2 big ones and lots of smaller satellite deposits. So, there's lots of exploration upside here off the back of a base of a decent resource at Tenera.
Okay, well, we're running out of time, so I need you to tell us and our audience the why invest in Tesoro right now. I actually think you've already done a great job, because I love that photograph which showed actually, you mentioned at the start, the low-cost gold producer in Chile. You've got lots of the infrastructure already there. You're working really hard, but just give us 3 quick reasons why now is the best time to get into Tesoro.
Well, I think that at the moment we're fairly undervalued compared to a lot of our peers in the ASX, particularly companies with Australian assets. And we've demonstrated that we're able to deliver on our work programs, and we've been doing what we say we're going to do, and we'll continue to do that. And we've got a significant resource upgrade coming this year. We're seeing those results come out as shown by our recent ASX announcements. And we really do think we've got a gold mine on our hands here. So we're pushing hard to get that through feasibility and developed as quickly as possible. So if people want to invest in a company that's got a gold deposit in a world-class mining jurisdiction in a world-class location supported by infrastructure with an ore body sticking out of the ground, then Tesoro's it.
We've run out of time. Zeff, Reeves, we'll see you in the Zoom hour of power later today. But for now, thank you very much for joining us at the Virtual Gold Conference.
Cheers. Thanks very much, guys.